the Johannesburg Council has failed to elect a new mayor again. An extraordinary meeting scheduled yesterday was unable to proceed because of several requests for hours-long caucus breaks. The city is still this Wednesday morning without a mayor, following a very short-lived stint of Thapelo Amad, who, as you know, would have resigned last week. He did resign last week. So is this a reality of what's in store for the province after the 2024 national elections as well? Political analyst, Prof Dirk Kotze, I hope I'm getting your title right this morning, Dirk. He joins us via our video link. It's great to have you with us, Prof. And it was disheartening, wasn't it? But not completely unpredictable what happened in Council yesterday.
Yes, that is the case. I think what we are seeing here the first time is actually quite a fragmentation of the different groups. First of all, it means that the ANC's grouping, which is called the Government of Local Unity, does not have a clear majority. Otherwise, it would have continued. Secondly, on that side of the DA, there's also not a majority because the Action SA has decided to put up their own candidate against the DA candidate, Prof Kotze, which means that there's on their side also not a majority. And I think this is where in a sense, the stalemate comes from, is that there is, and I should maybe add also that on the side of the ANC, the complicating factor is the Patriotic Alliance. They have 8 seats, and they really determine, or will determine, which side will ultimately have the majority. They have threatened now for quite some time that they are not going to vote along with the ANC for what has happened in Ekurhuleni, and that is that they didn't receive any seats in the mayoral committee there. So it has become a massively complicated situation for not only Johannesburg, but for Ekurhuleni actually also.
Yeah, it was about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon when there were reports that ANC councillors staged a walkout. There was an instruction apparently to vote along with the EFF, which some ANC members said went against internal policy on coalitions. I mean, the instruction or the decision by the internal policies of the ANC was to side with the majority party in council, right, when it came to issues of positions like the mayoral chain.
Yes, that is so, but I just want to remind you also that what happened last week is that the ANC voted together with the DA to approve the supplementary budget in Tshwane. So there have been the dividing lines or the groupings that are sort of at play in Johannesburg crossed over. Mm. So what it actually says is that at this stage we don't have clearly defined groupings or formations between those around the ANC and those around the DA, specifically in Johannesburg. Another party and another issue that is equally complicated is that of the speaker in Johannesburg, coming from COPE, which was also for most of the time part of the DA group until Colleen Makubela was elected. So that's another component which contributes towards the current situation, which I think at this stage is almost not possible to be resolved. They will most possibly go back or postpone this meeting and go back in order to regroup. But under current conditions, it looks very, very difficult to come to any form of decision.
So what is hampering a decision actually happening, Prof? The EFF is sort of set on Dada Morero, who has had the mayoral chain for some hours at one point. The ANC is yet again going with a little-known Al-Jama councillor, which was the case with Thapelo Amad as well. The DA, as we know, has its candidate as the former mayor of Johannesburg, Dr. Prof Kotze. So when we talk about these caucuses, the ANC yesterday called for a 3-hour caucus break. What kind of discussions would be happening then in a context where Johannesburg residents would hope it's around who can best do the job?
Yeah, that's unfortunately is one of the last considerations. At this stage, the consideration is who will be able to occupy this position. And I think what we've seen in now both Ekurhuleni in the past in Johannesburg and also in Mogale City is that the ANC is in favor of a small party to occupy the position of mayor. The real reason for that they have never disclosed to anyone in public. But in most cases, I would say it was about the fact that the ANC and the EFF could not reach an agreement of how the executive structure of these different metros should look like. For example, who will take the position of mayor, who will take the position of speaker, as well as that of the chief whip. And that is the idea, therefore, of power sharing between the different parties amongst the top positions. And neither of the ANC-led coalitions as well as the DA-led coalitions, they have actually been very successful with that. And I think that is where the real contestation is happening at the moment. So going for a small party to occupy the position of mayor or speaker is actually just the interim arrangement. It is not there to resolve the issue, but it is to buy time in order to resolve these issues between the ANC and the EFF essentially. And in some cases, as I said, with the Patriotic Alliance. So in order to get the Patriotic Alliance online in Johannesburg, they will have to make concessions in Ekurhuleni about it. That is for a long time now part of the deal that the PA is negotiating in order to support the ANC. And with their 8 seats, it's absolutely critical that the ANC do receive the support of the Patriotic Alliance. Without them, they simply don't have a majority in the council. Yeah,
and so the horse trading continues, right? I mean, what would you say about we talk about coalition politics and the fact that it's the future for our country, even going into the elections 2024. Coalitions are how we're going to be doing things for the foreseeable future. But might there be, Prof, actually a concerted effort for the coalitions process not to work? Might there be efforts actually to purposefully undermine coalitions?
Well, you can do it only up to a certain point, because if no party has a majority, then there is only one option, and that is coalitions. And if that happens next year, then they will be forced to do it. We've seen it in, for example, in Germany, where they couldn't form coalitions. So ultimately, the two main parties, the Social Democrats and the Christian Democrats, had to form two consecutive governments. We've seen it in Israel, where for very long they couldn't form a coalition. Ultimately, they had to bring together parties that actually don't want to be together. But that's the reality of coalitions. And I think we must not sort of assume that the dynamics of local government will automatically be replayed at provincial and national level. My expectation is that, especially when it comes to national coalitions, they will look and function very much different from provincial and local coalitions. Yeah. And the reason for that is because there won't be these small parties necessarily involved. Yeah.
And so the council sits now this coming Friday, hopefully to finally now elect a new mayor. It will be almost 2 weeks this Friday since Thapelo Amad's resignation. Before we end off our interview, Prof Kotze, I want to get your sense of another story which hopefully doesn't fall by the wayside. Parliament fining Mosebenzi Zwane 5 days worth of pay. They've also barred him from taking part in any debates in Parliament for the next month. It's such an incredibly important story, Prof. And Mosebenzi Zwane found by Parliament to have abused his role on interministerial committees, appointed Gupta business partners, not declaring benefits received from the Gupta family, breaching the ethics code for his role in the sale of Optimum coal mine. These are incredibly important breaches he's been found guilty with. What do you make of the slap of the wrist he's getting, though?
Yes, I think what is important is the finding of this process, the conclusion of this process. The committee itself doesn't have very much strong powers in order to act against him. So these are some of the more stringent powers that the committee can use. So I think we must not test the resolve of the situation in terms of what is the penalties, if I can call that, but rather the conclusion of it. And this is the first time, as far as I know, that a committee of Parliament, the Ethics Committee, have come to this conclusion. So it's not anymore only about taking someone to court, but there are now other very important forums in the political system that can also make pronouncements on this. And I think there are not many left in Parliament who are persons in similar positions like him, but it will become very important that it is seen that Parliament is censuring persons who have become very much publicly associated with state capture and specific aspects of it, and abusing their power also during that time. So for me, I fully agree with you. It has high significance in terms of the role of Parliament in this respect.
Yeah, so don't look at the sanction, but rather look at the findings of the Ethics Committee. Prof Dirk Kotze, let me thank you for your time this morning, weighing in on a whole range of very important political stories.